Hello everyone, this is Gwiz, and tonight I'm going to be cooking beef and broccoli. This is going to be close to traditional, but not quite traditional. I'll call it a home-style beef and broccoli. Now, when I asked ChatGPT to make me beef and broccoli sauce, I noticed it didn't make me quite enough sauce to satisfy my taste. So I asked for it to make me 10 times the amount of sauce. Step one of the recipe is to marinate the beef. So to marinate the beef, you're going to use a whole bottle of wine, which is about 3 cups of wine. Use dry wine. You can use dry red or dry white wine, preferably dry sherry white wine. And then it's crucial that you use at least a tablespoon of baking soda. This will help soften up the meat. Also, I recommend throwing in a couple cloves of garlic. Next, you're going to want to add a tablespoon of cornstarch to the sauce, along with a teaspoon of ginger, just to give it a little bit more flavor since you are putting it inside of a sweet alcohol wine. Okay, and finally, you want to add about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce in order to finish the marinade. This will give it that salty-ish flavor. You want to marinate the meat for at least 2 to 3 days. So now for the next part, I'm going to be mixing the sauce together. This is considered step 2 in the recipe guide. Alright, and the way I'm going to make this sauce is just, it's going to be like the base sauce that gets combined with the beef broth. Since every time you cook beef, you're going to be making beef broth, I thought it would be a good idea to make at least a cup of sauce. So in order to do that, the primary ingredients for this are going to be the oyster sauce and the soy sauce. You get a half cup of soy sauce and a half cup of oyster sauce, and you put them together in a bowl and stir it up with about 2 handfuls of garlic chopped, and mix it together in order to make the base flavor. And then you can add ginger, sesame seed oil, dry sherry, and the sugars in order to finish it. Alright, so I'm going to start with the soy sauce. Need about half a cup of soy sauce. Some also would recommend putting in dark soy sauce, and the mixture is about 3/4 regular soy sauce, 1/4 dark soy sauce. It has a bit of a bold flavor to it, so you may actually even just prefer using normal soy sauce, but the boldness is part of the traditional recipe. So now that we have about half a cup of soy sauce, add that to the bowl. Next, I'm going to add the oyster sauce. Alright, yeah, so add about half a cup oyster sauce. That's good right there. This is about half a bottle. Each bottle is about 9 ounces, and you're respectfully putting in about 4 in order to make a single dinner sauce, or several dinners. Alright, so add in the oyster sauce into the bowl. And I recommend adding in the garlic to the sauce itself. Now, I've tried it like this, and believe me, the garlic cures that oyster sauce. There's like a weird flavor to the oyster sauce, and garlic seems to cure it. So I like to put at least a handful of garlic in my sauce. Add a teaspoon of brown sugar. This is also optional. The recipe that I saw online only calls for regular sugar, but from what I remember, dark brown sugar is well appreciated in this recipe. Alright. Take about a tablespoon of the sesame seed oil. Just enough. Don't spill it. Add this. Believe it or not, sesame seed oil has a very strong flavor, and it will change the flavor of your dish even if you use a small amount. Finally, get at least 5 teaspoons of cornstarch to thicken the sauce. I already put 1 in earlier, so I'm going to add in 4 teaspoons of cornstarch, and then I'm going to mix this. That's 5. For the sauce, I recommend also adding a small portion of ginger. This is about a tablespoon of ginger. And just put that in. Once you have all the ingredients mixed in it, you want to stir. There's one more ingredient that I like to add into this, and that is just a little bit of dry sherry. This is also part of the traditional recipe, supposedly, at least from what I read. I'm just going to put in a little bit like that. Not much. You don't need much alcohol for this. Try to save your dry sherry wine for another day. You might need it later. By Laoganma. This sauce has the monosodium glutamate that I desire, and I don't mind the chilies. If you want to use this sauce, it's completely optional, just like monosodium glutamate is optional. But I think that this sauce really boosts flavor altogether. Now this is just another option, but what I would do is put the sauce into a blender. If you have a smaller blender that will be specifically made for doing jobs like this, you might want to consider investing in that. I don't have a special blender, so what I'm going to do is just throw what I have in a regular blender. As you can see, it still fills up quite a lot. And blend it on low pulse. And then pour that back into the bowl. What this is going to do is it's going to give us a more consistent sauce flavor. And then I can use this sauce by putting it into the fridge, into a jar, and then using it for more than one recipe. This is going to be what I use to then flavor the beef once it has dehydrated the wine. Now I'm going to add about a teaspoon of the hot chili sauce. Monosodium glutamate is something very tasty. I've tried this sauce myself. Alright, this is step 3 and 4, frying the beef. We're just going to be putting oil in a pan and frying up the onions and the garlic along with the ginger. Once that's cooked up, we're going to add in the meat. Residual sugars inside of it. Adding a little bit of ginger won't hurt. So just take your onions. This is a whole onion. Put the whole thing in there. And this is going to be used with the marinade and beef. Make sure to add about 2 tablespoons of oil, or a splash of oil if you aren't picky about your ingredients list, and then throw in all of your garlic, because garlic is the main flavonoid in this recipe that will make you feel like you're eating traditional beef and broccoli from a restaurant. Alright, for this next part, I'm going to be heating up the garlic and the onions. Those are the 2 traditional ingredients. They get fried in oil along with the beef, but instead of just garlic and onions, I'm going to add ginger because I marinated my beef in wine, and wine is a sugary taste, and so so don't forget about the ginger. The stuff goes bad next. After you put in the ginger, put in the meat. This is the beef broth. This is the beef broth that I've made. Just beef marinade, more or less. Now, the recipe typically would call for 5 cups of this. I don't think I have 5 cups here, but I can perhaps add water and this makes up the beef broth that goes into the recipe. And I would like to cover this up and stir it. Alright, now that I have this covered on low heat, I'm going to set the timer for about 15 minutes and come back and stir it every 2 minutes, I suppose. Actually, maybe less. It depends on how it's cooking. Alright, now that the meat is covered up, I have it set for low heat, and now I'm just going to let this simmer for about 15 minutes. Now again, this is just an option for those of you that don't mind monosodium glutamate. You need to invest in more equipment. Anyway, so we're going to add the sauce to the beef and put whatever's left inside of one of these containers and put it in the fridge. This is the final part to the recipe. You're going to be adding the broccoli and the beef together, and you're going to be heating it for an additional 2 to 3 minutes and serving it with rice. Next, take some sliced broccoli florets and carrots and put them into a steamer. If you think you can just pour it in there, do that, but I don't want to spill, so I'm just going to put them in there by hand like this. And stick the chopped carrots on top. Alright, now steam the meat and the vegetables at the same time for at least 10 minutes. Now the vegetables are steamed, add the last portion of sauce to the meat. As you can see, the sauce inside of the meat has thickened up a little bit. Just add the sauce. And whatever is left you can actually use for later. We have more than enough beef here and sauce in order to make multiple dishes of beef and broccoli. All we would have to do is steam up vegetables and then pour sauce over it and microwave it, or heat it up in a pan. So I'm just going to stir this around just so you can see it. I think this part is important because this part of the sauce calls for beef broth, and since we're making this home style, not restaurant style, where they would probably have beef stock, in stock from boiling beef, I'm just going to pour it inside of the beef here so that it gives it the beef broth necessary in order to complete that sauce flavor. Also, we're cooking the sauce, and I would recommend that the garlic and everything inside of the sauce that we just prepared be cooked before you just put it over the vegetables. But since this is home style, I'm going to do it my way that I feel more comfortable doing it, and just put the sauce into the beef like this and to let it cook a little bit longer. And then to prepare the broccoli and pour the beef over. And for this final part, just take your beef and broccoli sauce and pour it over the steamed broccoli and serve this with rice. And that is typically a beef and broccoli dish. As you can hear, my timer just went off, so that lets you know that the sauce has been fully cooked.
How come we just pour the broccoli in with the sauce?
Because the broccoli florets are delicate, and I don't want to have to damage the broccoli. That is an option, but I just don't want to do that. I'd rather pour the sauce and everything on top of the broccoli. It just seems like it would be more presentable. All right, and enjoy.